Welcome into the latest episode of Betting the Pitch, the European Soccer Edition. I'm your host, the real underscore G Warner. On this episode, we're going to do three midweek matches, English Woche, as it's called in the German Bundesliga, plus the English Premier League back after the FA Cup this weekend, and then Serie A in Italy. There are some cup matches going on in France and Spain, but I'm not really prepared for those just yet and might get to them on a later episode, maybe another one I do tomorrow. We'll see what happens, but wanted to get an episode out there for everyone. I'm going to get this tweet out so people know we're live, and then I guess if anybody would like to hit that follow button anywhere you see at the real underscore G Warner on social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, especially. And if you want to subscribe to the podcast, do so betting the pitch on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify at the real underscore G Warner on YouTube and on Instagram if you want that 1 minute reel where the best bet number comes from. Thanks to you that have already joined. If you have something you'd like to throw in the comments, please do so. They are open and I will respond when I see them. We're going to start where the money is, and that is in the English Premier League once I figure out where my screen just went. And then we will get into that, go through the other leagues, pick out my favorite bet from each of the leagues, and then that will be what I get graded upon. So we'll start in England with West Ham United hosting Fulham. This is a Tuesday, 2:30 Eastern time match, so 1:30 in God's country, aka Texas. Just kidding. But people care apparently about that. West Ham currently quarter goal underdog at home with all the juice. Total is 2 3/4, juice more to the over. Fulham had a wild match in the last Premier League window, which was last Sunday. They were pretty much in a 1-0 game behind, and then there were three penalties all late in the match, which was brutal for an under. Um, and I guess you could also argue brutal for Ipswich Town because that was probably a game they could have and deserved to win. Fulham's been great. They've had some questionable performances, and I think on the broadcast there's a lot of talk about how do they handle other clubs that are going to force them to beat them, basically set up defensively and force Fulham to create. We saw Fulham put in a lot of crosses. Not sure exactly how that will play out for them this season because you really want crosses to and to really good, I guess, players or to really tall strikers. I don't know that Fulham really have that with Raul Jimenez. He's certainly had a much better run the last couple seasons than when he got injured and was playing for the Mexican national team. But the big question also is what is Graham Potter's side going to look like for West Ham United as he will be in the job finally? West Ham's been awful. They've got good names, good talent, and have done well on a European stage over the past couple seasons, but with a different manager. They clearly have the talent. I think the question is, can they all string it together? Graham Potter was a good manager at Brighton, but so is everyone at Brighton. So was that really Graham Potter? That's a big question because he was an absolute fail at Chelsea. I think in terms for this number, as anyone who listens to this podcast knows, I'm into underdogs and unders. So that certainly plays and kind of fits here, though I'm a little bit nervous, wary, whatever the right word would be for evaluating Graham Potter when he starts. I think West Ham United played a negative anti-football under Julian Lopetegui, which for how mad they were with the success that David Moyes had, of course that wouldn't work. But I think at this point, Fulham is of interest to me later down the line. But going on the road and having to control the game and create is going to be hard for them. So West Ham, I'll put them on my list, getting a quarter of a goal. I also lean to the under 2 3/4, as I think there's some value there, and I think fading Fulham seems to be reasonable at this point in the season. Move next to Brentford hosting Manchester City. Currently, Brentford a 3/4 goal underdog, down from +1 when I looked at lines earlier in the weekend or week or whenever the heck I saw it. Total is 3.5, juice pretty heavily to under right now. I'm not a believer in Manchester City. I've been betting against them for pretty much this entire season, keeping the year to date afloat. I think Brentford have, I mean, we've seen them horrible away from home, great at home. They changed that in a huge way with a lopsided victory at Southampton, which was lopsided anyway, but they did have some late goals, which certainly damage and under, and a best bet on this episode, a couple episodes back. But the big question is how they're going to perform against the Manchester City side that might have it all together. They throttled West Ham United and got Julian Lopetegui finally put out of his misery. But I don't trust Manchester City. I feel like close wins the best they can really look for. I don't trust them to hold leads, and they're just not as dominant as they used to be. Brentford are not great. Not very good defensively, not very good offensively. It feels like a lot of their goals are fortunate, but at this point, I'm very interested in that home side. I think I like this home underdog more than under, just because Manchester City can certainly score a ton, but they also can concede a ton, and I think that's a big problem for Pep Guardiola's side. I'll certainly be waiting for Brentford to hit one again. I expect it too, but we haven't seen it yet, so I will wait in the wings. Moving next to Chelsea hosting Bournemouth. Currently, Chelsea a 1 goal favorite, slightly more juice on Bournemouth away from home. Totals 3.25, juice slightly more to over. Chelsea have, I think, reached their peak valuation a few weeks ago and have not performed since. When as soon as the title questions started being asked, it became pretty clear that they were not in the title race. I mean, they are, but they have not been really performing well at all since they got close. I think from a Bournemouth perspective, they're the exact side I want to play against Chelsea. Deep sitting defense that springs counterattacks. I think that Chelsea is ripe for the picking in that scenario. So give me Bournemouth a 1 goal underdog, and I like the under 3.25 as well. I think there's a lot of protection there. Any total above three, I think, is a key number. Three is, and so therefore that always puts me in an under lean, especially for a Chelsea side that I think has a lot of name value recognition and goal recognition that just haven't been performing lately, including a 1-1 draw against Crystal Palace. Moving next to Nottingham Forest hosting Liverpool. Nottingham Forest, a 3/4 goal underdog at home, all the juice on Liverpool away. Total is three, just really heavily to under. I like home dog. I like under. Nottingham Forest did win at Anfield earlier this year. I think I had under. Really disappointed I didn't play the underdog, but that was certainly a risk I didn't feel comfortable taking. And then Nottingham Forest, I think, stole a goal and won 1-0. Liverpool have been awesome. I think that's their only loss in regulation in any sort of competition so far. So brutal for them. But Liverpool's still on top of the table, and I think what comes with being top of the table in the Premier League in England is I think you do have a lot of pressure that comes with it, no matter how far ahead you are, unless it's like really that drastic. Nottingham Forest have been great. One of the lowest possession teams, literally had 39% on the road at Wolverhampton Wanderers. Somehow still won 3-0. Very different scenario here, but I think Liverpool's desire for payback to me will not outweigh Nottingham Forest. So really like Forest getting a 3/4 goal underdog at home. We'll certainly be waiting for a full goal of insurance. Looks like we potentially get that. Also lean to under three because I don't think we see a lot of goals being scored. Moving to Wednesday, we have Everton hosting Aston Villa. Currently, Everton a 1/4 goal underdog at home with almost all the juice totals 2.25, juice all the way to over. So surprising to see an Everton total juice to over like this, but certainly their totals have been falling down, and as they should because they haven't scored goals in forever. Sad to see Sean Dyche no longer in place, but David Moyes is a similar version, I think, of a manager in England where he'll be pretty defensive at first. And I think the main task for him is to try to find goals since Everton have not been scoring and they're in a relegation battle yet again. On the other side, Aston Villa, they have not been very good. I'm not impressed by their offense. I'm not impressed by their defense. That's what got them into Champions League this year. They've been struggling to balance all those competitions. That Champions League hasn't been playing for a while, so it's hard to really use that as an excuse here or a crutch. But I think Everton, a 1/4 goal underdog, is of interest to me. I think I like the under 2.25 even more though, because I don't trust them to score. Leicester City then host Crystal Palace. Currently, Leicester a 1/2 goal underdog at home. Totals 2.75. You slightly more to under, like just 2 cents difference at BetOnline. If you're not a member at BetOnline or Sportsbetting.ag, go take a look. Make a first-time deposit. Use the link in the podcast description, Apple Podcasts, or just hit me up at @the_real_G Warner on Twitter, and I will get you a referral code, get you some free money for your first-time deposit. And probably there's some good deals being run for NFL season and such for the playoffs. But Leicester, 1/2 goal underdog at home, are not very good. I mean, they got a big crowd support. Crystal Palace are usually really drastically different away from home, though they've certainly been collecting more points away than they have at home, thanks to a really poor home run this year. But Leicester, I mean, as a home underdog to a poor road team, does seem interesting to me. Also lean to under 2.75, but I think I want the full push on three, and it doesn't look like we're going to get there before kickoff on Wednesday afternoon. One more, or actually two more matches on Wednesday. Then we do have a Thursday card. Then I'll wrap up my English Premier League portion of the show with the best bet from these days' games. Newcastle currently 1.5 goal favorites to Wolves. Total is 3.25. Juice more to the over and more juice on the Wolves side. I'm not really looking to play anybody going to Newcastle, even as a big underdog like Wolves, because Wolves are I mean, they hired a new manager and somehow won a bunch of matches, but they have real problems. Like their financial situation must be that bad that they literally can't even field center backs. Like injuries have been bad, but they've also been choosing not to use Craig Dawson, instead playing other center backs over him. Tulti I haven't seen for a while either, and playing all these like kind of washed up fullbacks at center back has not really been working. We saw Callum Hudson-Odoi just absolutely roast Matt Doherty, who had been playing, I think, fairly well and been a good reason for Wolves to be winning a bunch of matches and kind of turning their season around. But there's a lot of problems here. The total of over 3.25 or above three is interesting, especially with Alexander Ishak's injury. But man, I don't think I want to get involved there. So I'll move last to the North London Derby. Arsenal hosts Tottenham. Currently, Arsenal 1.25 goal favorites with all the juice totals 3.25, just slightly more to over. Arsenal doesn't rotate unless they have to. So I would expect everyone that's available, especially for a derby in North London, to appear here. Tottenham. I mean, we have Ange complaining and Ange, just playing a brand, a strategy that just doesn't really fit his players or the best league in the soccer playing world. At this point, I don't really know what to do with this one. Arsenal is not the under team they used to be. I think this will be a low scoring, potentially tight matchup, but we could see 3-3 or even worse. So I think it's another one that I'll skip. Moving to Thursday, we have two matches. Ipswich Town hosts Brighton. Currently, Ipswich a half a goal underdog at home with almost all the juice. Totals 2.75, just slightly more to under. I lean to both home underdog and under here. I think Ipswich have been playing some of the best football of the English Premier League's kind of bottom sector of the relegation fighters. They've been great, that deserve better, do make some silly tackles. I mean, the two penalties they gave away were absolutely ridiculous, especially with Leeds, both on the road in Fulham, their last in London, West London, at Fulham, or the Fulham portion of the London city, I guess. Just there's a lot of immaturity there, and that's a problem. But Brighton have not been great at winning games. They've drawn, I think, a bunch, four in a row or so, setting club records, and they just struggle to win games. So going on the road, I don't see that happening. And Ipswich finally got that. Broke their duck, I think as it's called in England, finally winning at home. So I think they can do that again here. As for the Thursday last match of this, I guess, match day in England, we have Manchester United a goal and a half favorite to Southampton. Total is three, just all the way to over. Manchester United, I mean, the mistakes and the penalties that Matthias de Ligt give away are just gives away are incredibly embarrassing. Amazing that he's been at Bayern and Juventus and Ajax before that, and then still plays like an absolute juvenile with his hands in the air and such. I mean, unfortunately, it's not fun, but you got to take stuff in the face if you're a defender, especially in your own box. But he's a joke, and Manchester United is a joke also. Big problem here, though. Southampton also a joke. So two jokes are really could potentially lead to a really sad ending for a financial situation. I think my biggest interest in this one is under 3 goals. It's currently getting odds at BetOnline, so we're probably gonna get to 3.25 before kickoff on this one, would be my guess. But I can't say that'll be my favorite on this list, but fading the Manchester United offense when they're going to have to create things, I don't think Southampton can really threaten them defensively. So I think that's going to be one-way traffic. A lot of Manchester United, and 3.25 would make Manchester United have to get you four or get 4 goals to beat you, and I think that's going to be a much bigger struggle than I think anyone suspects. It's also been so long since I've seen Manchester United goal and a half favorite. Looking forward to it and hopefully see more of that, though I doubt it going forward this season. So, from the English Premier League, my favorite bet on this list, I'm going to go. Unfortunately, I don't have the ones on Nottingham Forest or on Brentford, so that does limit interest there a tad. I'm going to go with the Chelsea Bournemouth under 3.25 goals. I think Bournemouth could be a problem scoring goals enough to cause this, but I think there's a little bit more safety there than in the current +1 on the road at Chelsea. We'll move now to the Serie A portion of the show. This, I guess, going to be a shorter episode because there's only a couple of matches, 3 matches to be exact, in Italy. I don't think these are makeups, but I'm not really sure. I guess as a result of the Supercoppa Italiana in whatever faraway land, Saudi Arabia or something, whoever was paying the biggest buku bucks, blood money, $8 million or 8 million euros for the Supercopa title. That's because we see Milan, Atalanta, Juventus, and Inter all who are involved in that competition. They're all playing here, so maybe these are the makeup matches from this past weekend. But Como, they're hosting Milan on Tuesday, early start, 11:30 Central Time, 12:30 Eastern. Como a half a goal underdog at home with all the juice totals 2.75, just all the way to under. Um, Milan, I mean, they're a little bit unknown to me at this point, unfortunately. Don't love when there's new managers that come in. Of course, I know Conceição from his time at Porto in Champions League, though he wasn't coaching there this season or wasn't coaching in the Europa League. I think he had been out of football or out of a job. I don't know if that was his choice. It feels like it wasn't a sacking because Conceição's son left for Juventus, but ultimately, he was a quick hire, and they tried to get Paulo Fonseca out, I think, far earlier than they should have. But hard to say anything about what's going on. And if it's not as bad as Roma, then maybe it's not so bad in Italy. But Como, I just haven't trusted them this season. They got a lot of respect coming in, a lot of belief that they would stay in the league without really, I think, a lot of talent just based on big names like Rafael Varane, who I don't think has even played a minute just yet. Um, who knows? I guess there's a project there, and they have some famous celebrity fans, so good for them. But I think Blake Lively was there. I actually just saw a movie with her, some rom-com last night. Pretty good movie, actually. I think It Ends With Us. It was better than I thought it would be. But anyway, you're not here for the Oscars. You're here for some betting tips. So let's do it. I don't know what to do with this one. I think Como are still a team I'm not really a believer in. I guess if anything, I like the home underdog getting a half of a goal because Milan coming off a Supercoppa Italiana victory and two come from behind wins against Juventus and Inter were might make it about as expensive as Milan could be. And here is just wee little Como, which waiting for Milan to come in. I just wish I trusted Como at all, and I don't just yet. Atalanta then hosts Juventus. Currently, Atalanta half a goal favorite at home. All the juice on Juve right now, climbed from a quarter of a goal early in the week. Totals 2.25 here, juice more to the over. Juve, I mean, I guess have been scoring more goals, have no striker, it seems, unless they brought one in this chance for January transfer window and I missed it. Atalanta are better, I think. I don't know really where to go. I think Juve, I mean, as a half a goal underdog, that's a pretty big price for Juve, but I don't know that they really deserve to be backed in a place to play like Bergamo, where Atalanta are one of the best. I think biggest interest for me is under 2.25. Man, I don't love that one, I gotta say. Moving to Wednesday of Inter Milan hosting Bologna. Currently, Inter a one goal favorite with all the juice. Totals 2.75, juice all the way to under. Bologna have been disappointing this year. They have found their way into Champions League, but have not been able to score goals, and a lot of their talent left. Plus, their manager went to Juve, so those things are problems. But going on the road to Inter, I just think I've given up on wanting to fade Inter. Of course, they struggle sometimes and don't cover the spreads and blow 2-0 leads to their crosstown rival in Saudi Arabia or wherever the heck that match was played. I think that's a really bad time for Bologna also to work their way to Inter and try to play them in San Siro. And the lose song was going to be going over and over all night, which I got to say I found myself singing when I was in there, even though I don't know the words. A lot of people saying tutti and talking with their hands, of course, and everyone had their cell phone camera lights on, like so. Aha. See, you didn't know that I was going to give you some background on San Siro. But anyway, there we go. In case anyone's watching right now or watching eventually on the video portion on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, go check out Betting the Pitch for a little rendition of Lose by Inter Milan, though I guess they do sing it, so maybe it is by them. For this one, I lean to Bologna in a low scoring matchup. I think that's their best chance. They've been scoring more goals lately, though. I think they're rounding into form and look a lot better. Champions League kind of looks dead for them, though. So unfortunately, I feel like they need to figure it out. And I don't know. I want to pay to see it against Inter Milan, the best club in Italy. For this episode, I'm going to go for my best bet. I'm going to go with that Como getting half of a goal from Milan. Hard to do, and wasn't really sure I would get there, to be frank. But I do like the setup, especially that Milan, who've been very inconsistent. I'll pay to see them be as consistent as they can be, or something like that. Moving last to the German Bundesliga, then I'll sum up with a best bet from Germany, match them with the other picks I put out there on the other leagues already covered, and then we'll chop that all up into a 1 minute video to put on Instagram. Let's see how much. Oh, yes, phone is at 1%. Perfect time to make sure that I plug it in and have enough juice so that I can actually make the reel because I just talked about it. So let's see how many battery percentages I can get from while I talk about the German Bundesliga. We'll start with the earliest matchup of them all. Holstein Kiel, a 1-goal underdog to Borussia Dortmund. Total is 3.25, just more to the under. Dortmund coming off a ridiculous match where, I mean, it's always ridiculous, but Dortmund were starting like youth teams at on their four-man back line, along with Jan Kuto, who's just been horrible, not really playable when he gets on the pitch, which is rare, bad. After he transferred from Girona to Borussia Dortmund in the offseason. Part of maybe why Borussia Dortmund has struggled is they just seem to have a big name and they're not very good at picking players or developing players anymore. I feel like that club needs a lot of changes and it doesn't seem to be happening much. And that's why they are nowhere near anybody and can't win on the road. Well, here they are on the road at Holstein Kiel, the worst team in the Bundesliga, who have been really struggling. Had a really tough own goal to break the goalless draw on the road at Sport Club Freiburg this past weekend. And that was coming off a 5-1 victory as they went into the break. So hard to say what to expect from Holstein Kiel. I don't trust them to score many goals, but the Dortmund defense, who knows if everyone's still sick again? Because literally we had a Bayer Leverkusen Borussia Dortmund match, probably one of the most highly bet biggest names in the German Bundesliga at all. Like probably maybe not the same level as Der Klassiker with Bayern and Borussia Dortmund, but pretty much Leverkusen, one of the most popular teams now in the world, especially after their dominance in winning the Meisterschale last season. Well, a few felt like it was 30 minutes before the game or whenever lineups came out. I think everyone saw, wait, we don't know any of these names in the back four. Like, where did this happen? Then, of course, Leverkusen score in the first minute, and then they're up 3-1 in the first half. Dortmund got gifted a ridiculous penalty. Don't get me started on refereeing. Oh my God. But lose 3-2 at home. This is the easiest road fixture that Borussia Dortmund have, and they did get a road win on the road at Wolfsburg before the Christmas break. But man, they were really fortunate, I thought. Maybe we're dominating the game, but we're struggling to find goals, and then got lucky to find them and got gifts. I think the problem is how do you trust Borussia Dortmund and what is this lineup going to look like? So it's very hard to project where this line will move. I'll lean to Kiel right now, getting that 1 goal of insurance and lean to under 3.25. I can't say I feel very comfortable with either of those, though. Moving next to Bayer Leverkusen, speaking of hosting Mainz 05. Currently, Leverkusen, a 1.25 goal favorite with all the juice totals, 2.75 juice all the way to over. So, Bayer Leverkusen, don't look now, but they're starting to climb and they're getting very, very close to Bayern München at the top of the Bundesliga when it looked like they were dead not too long ago. 6 straight wins for Leverkusen, and they played Friday, so it gives them a rest advantage versus Mainz 05, who have been actually really good away from home. Did beat Bayern at home before the Christmas break, but I think Mainz, their intensity is the best part about them, and that's going to be a problem for Leverkusen. For that reason, I'm interested in Mainz getting more than a goal, but I'm actually not interested in the under here because I think that we see some goals in this one, which also makes the underdog a little bit less valuable, especially if it's a high-scoring game. And unfortunately, we've seen Leverkusen come from 2 goals down to still cover big spreads. I'm looking at you, Football Club Heidenheim, but we'll get to them a little bit later. Mines are a little bit better, and I do want to see what their status of Jonathan Bulcott is before this matchup, and we'll see that an hour before when lineups are released. Moving next to VfL Wolfsburg, a 0.5 goal favorite at home to Borussia Mönchengladbach. All the juice on Gladbach right now, which feels a little bit aggressive. Maybe this falls to 1/4 of a goal. That's probably below the price range. That's basically saying that Wolfsburg and Gladbach are about the same on a neutral. That's probably right, but Gladbach's road stuff has been really bad for years. And coming off Bayern, that's a tough place to then go on the road to Wolfsburg. Total is 3 in this one, just slightly more to under. I think Gladbach's inability to defend away, and they've got some good goal scorers. Tim Kleindienst has been awesome this year, and really ever since he hit the Bundesliga with Heidenheim last season. I think Wolfsburg are going to play defensively. I'm kicking myself for not playing the under as well as Wolfsburg on the road at Hoffenheim this past weekend. But honestly, I was a little worried that Wolfsburg could potentially run away and hide. They did cover because they won the match straight up 1-0. And weren't really threatened. I think we could see this number being valuable at the push on 3. So I'll put Gladbach on the list under 3 goals, though I just don't know if the 0.5 goal and a very juiced one at that is enough for me right now. To the last on the list for Tuesday, Eintracht Frankfurt, a three-quarter goal favorite at home with more juice. Total is three. Juice is split both ways. They're hosting Sportclub Freiburg, who are, I think, overplaying their talent and ability, but they do that every year. Eintracht Frankfurt, who I think have sold Omar Mamouche. I don't know if he has moved or if he's moving end of season. That's a big deal. Let's see. Has he moved? Uh, oh, there's now doubt over a move. Okay. Man City's in the they're in the wheelhouse, but I mean, who knows when these things are going to happen? And I guess until we see lineups, we never know. So we're gonna, I guess, while we're doing this, I'll assume that Marmouche is there and this end of season move or something like that, and he's not going to be pulled last minute. And Ugo Ekitike is probably the name that's going to go next for Eintracht Frankfurt, but it might not be this season. With that said, Frankfurt are talented. I think they're a lot better at home. Uh, but I think they actually get more support away. It's as weird as that sounds. So maybe they perform better away because the expectations are lowered, but they've kind of been inconsistent. Started off the year great, but then really kind of ran into Leipzig twice on the road, lost in the DFB Pokal, lost in the German Bundesliga. And Freiburg are a different squad. They're not as talented, and that's a problem. And I also find that Freiburg seem to beat the bad teams, and that's what you need to do. But I think against the better talented ones like Frankfurt, they're going to be more aggressive, more physical because Frankfurt is a bunch of youngsters, but we'll see if that matters. I think at +1, I'm more interested, but for now, I think I lean under three, but it's not really a strong one as we speak. Moving to Wednesday, we have no Thursdays, so just all the rest on slot on Wednesday. VfL Bochum, they are hosting St. Pauli. Currently, Bochum a pick'em with all the juice right now. Total is 2.25, juice all the way to over. Bochum are going to try to stay in this league at home. That's their basically message, how they do it every single season. Had a big win against Heidenheim heading into the international break, or into the Christmas break, excuse me. Um, but I don't really trust that to continue. St. Pauli are one of the best teams in this league. They just can't score goals. I think that certainly points to under 2.25. And I lead to St. Pauli if they do move to quarter goal underdogs. I don't trust Bochum to score goals. And I guess that plays into under just about as well, to be frank. Moving next to Bayern München hosting TSG Hoffenheim, currently München, Bayern München, that is. They are 2.5. The Münchener Bayern, as Derek Ray likes to say. 2.5 goal favorites at home. Total is four, which is pretty heavily under. She's just split both ways on the total. I want nothing to do with Hoffenheim. I just want to bet against them, so I'm certainly not going to play them going into Bayern. This was a great spot in the past for Pellegrino Matarazzo, but Hoffenheim have moved on from him and brought in some moron from Austria who has proven nothing other than that he doesn't really know how to win games. It couldn't do it in the Champions League, though he did get Sturm Graz there. I guess that was enough for them, though I think they are in big trouble. Next, we'll go to VfB Stuttgart hosting RB Leipzig. Currently, Stuttgart, half a goal favorite at home. All the juice on Leipzig away. Total is 3.25, and it is juiced slightly more to under right now. Stuttgart, great with possession, but I don't really trust them, really. I think they're going to really struggle to balance Champions League and the Bundesliga. It sort of happened so far this season, but I think they've been better in Champions League than anyone would have expected. First year back in that competition for a while. Leipzig have been awful in Champions League, still haven't gotten a win in that competition. I don't think they've gotten a point yet, which is really bad for me because I drafted them in a Champions League pool. RIP to that entry fee for me. But I think at this point, I'm a believer in Leipzig at home. They still need to prove it away. But with that said, I think Leipzig are interested in getting a half of a goal. I do think we could see some fireworks. That's probably why the total is above three here, but I lean to under 3.25 as well. I think Stuttgart control the ball, Leipzig set up the counterattack, and we get a stalemate and a lot of butting heads, not near goals. Um, Two more matches to go. Werder Bremen hosts, say, Heidenheim, currently Bremen, a one-goal favorite at home. All the juice on Heidenheim away. Total is three, just slightly more to under. Werder Bremen, they don't score goals much, but I think they've been playing really well this season, and Heidenheim look like a disaster. Um, I think Heidenheim, I mean, they're playing and it's gone fairly well for them in the Europa Conference League. Some of they finished in that like eighth or ninth position last year in the Bundesliga, which is not that impressive, but it was for a side everyone thought was getting relegated. They just look slow. They look like terrible against, and they've been rotating a lot for Conference League and have done well there. but they look really bad, like a team that's going to get relegated from the Bundesliga. That's a big problem. I think going away from home, they're going to try to sit in and defend, though they weren't really a big defensive team. They're trying to outscore teams, and they did that last season. Basically took a lot of leads and kind of held on to them. I think my biggest interest here, I don't really want much to do to Heidenheim, even get a full goal of insurance from an offense I don't trust. I think that under three is my biggest interest in that matchup. And last but not least, the Union Berlin. They are hosting Football Club Augsburg. Currently, Union, a half a goal favorite with almost all the juice at home. Totals 2.25, just more to the over. I don't trust Augsburg's offense at all, but I don't trust Union's offense at all. And I think Union bringing Stefan Baumgart into the side. I mean, we'll see how he changes things. Former manager at Cologne and at Paderborn, big go for it, try to score goals person. But that's not Union's style. It's not who they've ever been. It has not worked. I mean, I feel like I should have just brought back Louis Fischer. I don't know where he is, or if he's retired or his sunsetted or something like that. But ultimately, Augsburg, they want you to have the ball and they want to create turnovers. I think Union will play a lot of long balls. I think we see a very low scoring game. Ugly matchup, but I think one that would be very good to bet under on. A little bit more interested there than the Augsburg side. It doesn't look like we're going to get the full goal of insurance. Not that that was probably ever given by Union to Augsburg at home. Maybe in the finer days when Union was heading into Champions League or maybe in it, though that was an awful season. I think that was last year. Yeah, I don't know. I think those are probably games that are just too hard to play at this point. So I think under 2.25 is my biggest interest in that matchup. So time to pick an ultimate best bet from this episode. And before I do that, I want to thank, well, I'm going to make sure I didn't miss any comments, by the way. So if you did say something or want to, I'll open up the comments now. They're open the whole time, but they're on display if you want to send something in there. If not, I understand. And feel free to leave that comment wherever you'd like, maybe in a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. Search Betting the Pitch or wherever you get your podcasts. Certainly will take as many YouTube subscribers as well at the real underscore G Warner, plus on Instagram at the real underscore G Warner. If you want this 1 minute reel, which is about to be recorded, just give all my favorite picks for this episode. And we're just going to keep doing this until we get picked up by a huge outlet, and then I'll have someone recording this for me, or I don't know, I'll have a really hot secretary. Actually, that's probably a bad idea. We don't want that. Um, Other things to plug. Pregame.com podcast. You can find it at Pregame Now or wherever your Apple podcasts. We'll do one, I think, last college football episode with Big East Ben for before the championship. We'll also do, we're moving to 2 episodes a week on the Need for Seeds college basketball podcast coming up very, very soon. Also have a little bit of hint. I don't think Ben watches these, but got some merch. Ooh. If you want in, get some merch. I don't know if we're selling them yet, but we might start. That'll be coming up, and then we move to 2 episodes a week starting next week. So get ready, college basketball season. No more college stuff to mess with us now. I feel like my hair looks good. I do need to get a haircut though. I'm looking rough. Other than that, hope everyone's doing well in this new year, and then let's win some money. So it's time to record as I'm exhausted, as everyone can see. I never seem to sleep anymore, but that'll hopefully change. Never, because soccer never stops. Sports never stop. But here we go. It's time for the ultimate best bet. Hey, this is real underscore G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. This is the ultimate best bet where I'm 23-7 so far this season, 77% on my best bets. Trying to keep this record going. What I do is I pick one match from each of the leagues I cover. On this episode, we did Premier League, Serie A in Italy, and the German Bundesliga. So those picks are as follows: Bournemouth under 3.25 goals at Chelsea, like Como, or just Como, half a goal underdog to Milan, and the German Bundesliga, like St. Pauli under 2.25 goals on the road at another team that doesn't score a lot. For this episode, though, I want to pick my best bet. It's pretty clear. I think you probably heard it if you listen to this episode. Listen to it on full on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and on YouTube at the real underscore G Warner or Betting the Pitch. I'll go with Bournemouth under 3.25 goals. I think they have a good chance, especially as a 1 goal underdog, to go into Chelsea and potentially steal 3 points, maybe. But I think we see low scoring matchup. Chelsea are not really firing all cylinders. And I think they struggle with Bournemouth, who have a great manager. Andoni Iraola is God. And that'll do it for this episode. Thank you all for tuning in. in. We'll see you on the next version. And if you want some other stuff like the Coupe de France or the Spanish Copa del Rey, if you want a podcast on that, please hit me up. Leave a 5-star review and I will do it. One 5-star review and I will on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify saying I want Coupe de France, I want Copa del Rey. I guess I'll have to record one. If I don't get one there, though, I'll take as many subscribers at the real underscore G Warner. Of course, at the real underscore G Warner on Patreon if you want all my picks across all sports. Still amazed by the Vikings no show tonight, but oh, I don't know what to say about that one. But thanks for tuning in. We'll get this out there on there, and we'll talk to you all soon, very soon. Thanks for the support.